If where you are is busy, maybe you're in an office, or perhaps it's cold, we apologize. On behalf of the IAAF, I'm Atto Bolden. Seated next to me is a young lady who took home 2 gold medals from last year's Olympic Games in both the 4x1 and the long jump. Tianna Bartoletta is our guest on this week's Inside Athletics.
Hello.
Welcome, Tianna.
Hi, Adam. Thanks for having me.
I was telling you before we came on the air, and I'm going to say it again. I thought that your leadoff leg in that 4x1 in Rio was the best I had ever seen. It would have been the best from any other lane, but the fact that it was from lane 1 made it that much more spectacular. You didn't have a great 100. How were you able to rebound and run that kind of leadoff leg?
Yeah, the 100 wasn't great because of just timing and just the way things lined up for me health-wise, but I knew that I was ready to run, and because of the dramatic journey to get to the 4x1 final, it just added a lot more fuel to the tank. There was a lot of emotional energy fueling us and a lot at stake, and I think one thing I'm really able to do is dig deep when it's time, and I just found a new level of intensity.
Now you have credentials on the track, and I remember when you were 19 years old, you won the world title back in 2005. I ask a lot of young men and women who do both, do you consider yourself a sprinter or are you a jumper?
I'm both. I just don't know which word to put before the other.
Right, so you're a sprinter jumper, or you or a jumper sprinter?
I'm really not sure, and when I try to think about how I would even begin to analyze that, I mean, I try to go to my personal best, maybe like 1078 in the 100. Yeah, that's good, but I'm also a multiple world champ and an Olympic champ in the long jump, so that's also good. So I don't know how to decide which one I'm actually better at.
You talked about those 2 long jump world titles. The first one in 2005 when you were 19, and then the last one 2 years ago in 2015. In fact, you'll be defending your title in London. Explain how, in a sport where people show up and in 3 or 4 years they're gone, how have you been able to last that long in such a competitive event?
Yeah, it's a really interesting story. 2005, obviously I was still in college, and so I was coming out of the college system, and I was able to hold that for the following year. But I got injured in 2007, and as a reigning world champion, I was able to go to Japan just on the bye. But that kind of was the beginning of me settling into mediocrity. I didn't bounce back well from my injury, physically or psychologically, and I only did just enough to like stay in the sport, still get invited to meet, still make enough money to pay tuition and rent and stuff like that. So I really think the lack of me not pushing myself over the course of those years has contributed to the longevity, because my body wasn't taxed. I wasn't experiencing the intensity of events like the World Championships in 15 or the Olympics at Rio. So I didn't have, burnout wasn't going to be a factor. I wasn't applying myself that much.
Now, you talked about that sort of descent into mediocrity that you had. We hear all the time that your husband, John, is credited with getting you from that point back to the Tianna that everybody saw was possible after we saw you as a collegian. But what specifically did he do?
Oh, he helped me realize that I was settling and that I could still get back to that athlete that I was before, but that it would require more effort on my part and a real, truly honest commitment, and to just not cut any more corners, because that's what I was doing. I was just doing just enough. And so I went from doing just enough to doing more than I needed to. So if the coach asked me to do 3 sets, I would do 4 sets. Like everything was just more deliberate, and every part of my life became very, very disciplined, really. So everything from diet to what time I went to bed to how I drove, and stuff like even just not ever letting the gas tank drop below half full kind of just really instilled in me this, like, this is what it takes to get to where you want to go. You either do it or you don't, but there's no half passing it.
What, in your opinion, makes a great leadoff leg runner? What are you focusing on? The team is depending on you, obviously, to get a good start, but what else goes into being a fantastic leadoff runner?
There are two things, and the first one's going to sound extremely cliche because it is, but it's true. They say that belief is the difference. And I truly believe when I step on the line that I'm going to catch the next person in the next lane. And I also believe that there is no one who can run a turn better than me. Like, I truly believe that. I say it with no arrogance or cockiness, and I don't ever, this is the first time I've said that out loud to anybody, but when I get on the line, I truly feel that way. The second thing is how I run the turn, and it's basically physics for me. It's like the shortest distance is a straight line, so my blocks are lined up so that I'm running straight, which takes less time. And then when I get on the turn, I'm basically running so close to the inside line that one foot is literally stepped down in front of the other. So it's very efficient.
Oh, wow.
And that's how I'm able to cover ground so quickly on a turn.
One of the things that you did for a while was you got invited to go and do the bobsled. And you had some decent results with that on the international circuit. Is that something you're going to go back to eventually, or do you feel like you've accomplished everything you can in the bobsled?
No, I don't feel like I've accomplished everything I can. I feel if I applied myself and wanted to commit to it, I probably could contribute my speed and explosiveness and maybe make the Winter Olympic team. That would be really awesome. So no, I don't feel like I've accomplished everything, but I probably also won't spend another winter sliding.
Really?
It was a really good experience, but I think when I look back on my life in couple of decades, I'll see that joining the bobsled team was actually the catalyst for returning to the long jump.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because I was really struggling with how fast the penultimate step needed to be in order to be efficient. But in bobsled, I was nailing the penultimate because you have to, or you'll get left behind.
The sled will go on without you. Wow,
Exactly.
I didn't think about that.
So out of necessity, I was getting a ton of reps. With the penultimate step that I no longer believed I had or was capable of doing. And so once I saw through several video sessions with the bobsled coach, I was like, I think I can return to the long jump now.
I would have never in a million years connected the bobsled's penultimate step before you get in the sled and the long jump, but you just did it.
It was an amazing thing when I saw it in the video, and it was like exactly the same movements.
Let's go back to Rio and that long jump. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that was the most thrilling win of your career, but take me through how the rounds progressed. We saw the drama at the end, but tell me what's going through your mind as that goes back and forth with you and Brittany.
Okay. It's funny because sometimes I don't remember major championships.
That's when you're in the zone.
Yes. So I'll do my best. I remember I'll start at qualifying. Yeah. For some reason, the adrenaline's not there for qualifying. So it's always like a little bit of a struggle. And you're like, oh, why can't I jump 6, 7?
But you can roll out of bed and almost get the 7 meters.
Yeah, but then you have to have that mental toughness. Like tomorrow when the lights are on, I'll be able to execute. So it was interesting. Everybody got off to a slow start. Rio's runway is really fast, which for me is where I'm comfortable. But I intentionally fouled the first jump because I wanted to make sure I could bring it on each approach. And so before it took the first jump, I walked over to Raina and said, okay, I'm going to foul this jump, probably going to foul it bad.
And he was okay with this?
And make the adjustment for me. Yeah, he was okay because all year I had been doing strange things with my run and wasn't confident. So I said, I'm going to show you how I'm going to run tonight, and you get me on the board.
Got you.
And so, yeah, I did that. I fouled by a meter and landed out there between 8 and 9 meters. And Raina was like, yes, that's what I want to see. And so,
but he knew you were ready to jump.
Yeah. So he was like, okay, if that's what we're doing tonight, that's what we're doing, coach. So he said, just when you line up next time for your next jump, just take a big step back, and that's where you start from. I'm like, that's it? Nothing more accurate than that? Just take a big step.
Yeah, big step.
So that's what I did on the second jump. I think it was 670 or maybe 690. I don't know, but either way, every jump that I had that night was my best jump of the season so far because I'd been struggling so much. But I was able to release that because this is the Olympic Games. You either win or you go out on your shield.
Right.
That's my attitude. You have to go for it. There's nothing to lose but the competition, and you have to give it everything you have. So Ivana, I always know she's going to jump with everything she has, and Brittany, I don't even sit down. Like I know she is capable.
You know she's capable of
jumping
popping one at
huge
any
jumps.
time. Yeah.
So I stay warmed up and ready to go. So I didn't notice all the lead changes. I was kind of in my zone, because none of that actually matters. For me, it's just like you have 6 attempts to get that one jump that's going to be farther than everyone else's
And
jump.
you're worried about your 6, not everybody else's 6.
Exactly. So I didn't really think too much about it. I did get a surge of adrenaline after Ivana and Brittany both kind of battled together,
Right.
and then I was like, no, I'm gonna take care of this right now. Like it's my turn. It's my turn to execute a good jump. And so that's when I jumped 7:17. But I took my last jump, which a lot of people wonder why I did that.
Right.
And it's because the competition, it wasn't about winning. It wasn't about everyone else's jumps or doing just enough to win. It was about me, and me proving that I can execute under those conditions and that pressure, and to show that even through all of that, I could still come back and jump 7:13, because it wasn't just about being able to win the medal in that moment. And so I was really proud of myself for that. I was most proud of my last jump than the winning jump, because
Wow.
I stayed in the competition from start to finish. I fought for it from the very first jump.
And you got through all 6 and went home with the gold. Speaking of gold, you have those 3 gold medals, 2 in the relays in the last 2 Olympics, and of course that long jump. You were 4th in the 100 in London, and then you didn't get to the final in Rio. Does that bug you? Is that something where you go, oh, well, I have 3 Olympic gold medals, or do you go, yeah, but I still want some hardware in that 100 from the Olympic Games?
Yeah, I still want that hardware in the 100. I don't really say,
That
yeah,
window's
but
closing.
yeah, I
You get
know.
to that age.
I know.
That window's starting to close.
Yeah, I know, but I still want that validation as a sprinter.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it bugs me, but it's definitely on my to-do list.
Well, I've known you for a long time. I've known you since you were a teenager. What I like about you, you've always marched to your own drum. You didn't care what anybody else was doing. You were going to be Tianna.
Thank you.
All the best to you, and we hope that you have a great effort in defense of your title this year in London.
Thank you, Adam.
Thanks for being on the show.
No problem.